Hello and welcome to the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. It's a wonderful Wednesday, which means it's time for another episode of the Mirror Gaming Walkthrough. We've got some really juicy and hot topics today. We've got Redfall's messy launch, ouch, and we've got two people that have played it on the podcast today, which is great. We'll also be talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom gameplay first impressions. Some of the previews are up, so we'll be talking about that. And we'll also be talking about the Asus ROG Ally. The price has leaked. Does it make it a better proposition than the Steam Deck? We're about to find out. We're about to discuss it. So join us in a minute. Will, credits.
Everyone thinks he or she is the best football expert on the planet.
I'm just playing for pride now. And my pride's gone.
We're very passionate people here.
Oh, well, hello.
We're ready to come for the W, yeah?
These girls will smoke you, man.
Yeah. And joining me this week for the second week in a row, actually, we've got the same lineup, keeping the consistency, is gaming content creators at Mirror Gaming. We've got Aaron Potter. Hi, Aaron. How you doing?
Hello, Nathan. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about Game of the Year candidate. The first one has finally arrived, everyone. Yes, it is. It's Redfall. Yeah, it's not Zelda.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little while. Also joining us is Jasmine Mannan. Jasmine, how are you doing? You all right?
Equally disappointed about Redfall, but I actually have something exciting to talk about in the Asus ROG Ally price leaks, so
Yes.
I get to be a little bit happier today.
Yes, absolutely. And you joined us about a minute before we were supposed to go on live, so
Thanks for naming and shaming.
Yeah.
No, you get just go straight into it. You know what you're doing. So let's get into our topic, shall we? Redfall's messy launch. In Redfall, if you didn't know, it's a brand new AAA title. You wouldn't know it, but it's a AAA title where four heroes are all stuck in the fictional island town of Redfall, Massachusetts, which has a problem that so many other small towns have: a vampire infestation. Obviously, this was written by our own Scott McCrae. I'm not taking credit for this, by the way. The lucky foursome have their own skills and specialities, so you have all the abilities to deal with these vampires and progress through the story. However, a lot was expected from Redfall as a first-party Xbox title, but it's had a lukewarm reception from critics at best. IGN said, for example, Redfall is filled with vanilla missions and a lifeless world, and its lengthy list of display issues and bugs disappoint. We've also got a 6 out of 10 from Metro. We've got a 3 out of 5 from VG2 24/7. We've got a 2.5 out of 5 from Games Radar. We've got a 4 out of 10 from GameSpot, and on Metacritic 62, and OpenCritic is 65. So
These scores are so generous.
really,
Yeah, me and
In
Jasmine
my
actually
opinion.
scored it on the stream
Yeah.
yesterday, didn't we? And
I
we
thought-
did.
I thought. I mean, just looking at it, it seems quite harsh on the face of it. Obviously,
I don't even think they are.
you played the game. Is it as bad as the reviews say?
I think it's worse. I think it's genuinely, I think it's worse than the reviews are giving off, just based on the scores that you're reading out now. So at the end of our stream yesterday, me and Aaron did a little bit of a sort of how we found it, what it was that was really bringing this game down. And for me, this wasn't necessarily the case with Aaron, but for me, it was like everything. I was like, the whole game is bringing this game down. So I gave it a score of 1 out of 5 at the end, which seems really harsh based on the stream, because from Aaron's perspective, it seemed a little bit more like playable on the Xbox Series X, but I played it on PC where it was basically unplayable. And the only reason I gave it a 1 was because it was kind of like nice to look at. The graphics were cool, and you could see the concept, you could see what they were going for, and it kind of like just didn't really translate. So I just couldn't give it anything more than a 1.
look, I think you're
Yeah.
being generous by saying that I enjoyed it more than you, Jasmine. I just want to say. Maybe I have, because for my sins, following the stream yesterday, I did put another 2 or so hours into it last night, just because basically I didn't have a chance to enjoy myself on the. Well, obviously I enjoyed spending the time playing the game with Jasmine and talking rubbish about a rubbish game. But like if you were someone who watched the stream, like the entire time, my audio was like unsynced, I guess you would call it, and that there was about like a 2-minute delay. So me and Jasmine would have like an encounter either at a side mission or one of the main objectives, or it'd be the action would all be popping off. It would all be popping off, and it was like that scene from the original Amazing Spider-Man film where Stanley's in the background, in the foreground with his headphones on. Chaos is ensuing in the background. You can't hear anything. So I'm shooting stuff, and basically I've got a silencer on the whole time, and then we'll just be casually exploring the town. And all of a sudden, it was like so distracting. So, and we were trying to troubleshoot it, weren't we, Jasmine, whether or not that was a result of like the crossplay, because I was playing on Series X, you were playing on PC. But one thing's for certain is that both versions aren't in a releasable state, IMO. They only seem to sort of like be exasperated when you cross them over, for sure.
We're just watching some of the stream. I thought I'd put it up just so everyone can see what your experience was. I'm interested to see, Jasmine. I guess you haven't seen this because you're playing on PC. This is Aaron's gameplay from his Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
How does this compare graphically with the PC version, do you think? And I mean,
I
I
had a look at Aaron's stream after we came off, and I was like pleasantly surprised at the frames he was getting, because even at 30 frames, this is capped at 30 frames, it looks better than what I was getting on PC, which is really insane.
Wow.
It looks significantly better than what I was getting, which is so bad.
But you said you like graphically the game looked quite impressive to you,
so
whereas
in
here it
terms
looks
of,
really
like,
drab.
In terms of the quality of the image that I'm seeing in the game that I'm seeing, that was good. But then the frames were really bad. And even when I dropped the quality down to try and get more frames, like nothing happened. So I just left the quality up and I was like, okay, if I'm going to see it in 1 frame per second, it might as well look nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like it's not to do with my PC not being able to handle it or whatever. It's literally just down to port optimization. Otherwise, when I drop the graphic settings, it should have had higher frames.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the game, I was literally stuck in like 1 frame per second, like literally just teleporting from place to place to place. And I was kind of like, am I even moving? Where's Aaron gone? I can't find him anymore. Can't see his characters, disappeared off the screen. Like, it was just...
I might be melting into the floor for all you know.
Yeah, literally. Aaron's like, oh, Jasmine, are you crouching? And I'm just like, not crouching, melting into the floor. Like, what on earth is that about? It was really not fun.
Could you not see your gun at one point as well? Is that right?
Yeah,
I looked at
gun was
model
like,
it wasn't there.
Aaron was like, oh yeah, look, your gun looks so cool. It's glowing. And I was just like, what gun? Literally, what gun? I don't even have a gun in my hands right now. Like, it was just so glitchy and so buggy. And I have an issue with the game itself as well. This is what I tried to speak about on stream too yesterday, is that even without the bugs, even without all of these issues, I just feel like I was really confused what we were meant to be doing for a lot of the game. Like, missions were getting ticked off even when we hadn't completed them yet, so we were like unsure of where we're meant to be going or what we're meant to be doing. And like the pathway, there's like one very specific pathway to get to one very specific plane crash.
Oh my god, that was so frustrating.
To go over some mist, and it's like, unless you were really, really, really looking hard, it was really hard to see that log, because we went on top of a bridge to scout it out so we get the high ground, like Aaron was saying, and we couldn't even see the log from there. Aaron was like, you know what, forget this, I'm going to just run through the poisonous mist at one point. So I feel like when you feel like that when you're playing a game, that's just like a bad sign, isn't it? When you're just like, you know what, I'm going to just suicide it and go and run through the mist. That's
that red mist mechanic. I'm glad you brought it up, Jasmine, because I don't know what function it's meant to serve. Like, obviously, it's meant to be like a dangerous zone where enemies can sometimes throw like red mist in an area to sort of dissuade you from like going there. But the entire town of Redfall just seems to be like at random points or like key areas that the game knows you have to go through and want to get through. It just seems to make it as awkward as possible in order to delay you. So like Jasmine was saying about trying to get to that plane crash, it's like, oh, there's this one specific route and everywhere else around it is done by red mist that does like a whole load of like a lot of damage. Like, it's not a small chunk, which brings me to another issue with the, and when we will let you talk in a second, Nathan, I promise, brings me to a whole other issue, which is how health is handled. There's no regenerative health, which is fair enough, but I feel like in a live service online game, that's probably a big mistake anyway, because you kind of want to encourage people to stay afloat. But you have to hold down a button, either on your controller or on your keyboard, in order to keep on healing, rather than just a simple tap. So enemies can be like constantly like bombarding you with fire, but you're like, okay, I'm trying to like hold them at bay and heal at the same time, but I can't because I've got to hold this down. And health packs, I don't know if this gets better with skill points, but like 1 health pack does not equal like 50% health or 25% health. Like, it's like a smidge that you get back off it, and you're capped at 5 health packs at the beginning. So I would literally burn through these health packs, let alone save one for Jasmine to use if she was suffering from health.
Yeah.
I
Worried
was
about
kind
me.
enough. I was kind enough to save some for Aaron, and then I was kind of like, yeah, this was a bit of a mistake. But I will say in that the AI in the game was really bad. I feel like I'm just hammering on and on with all these points. I'm so sorry.
Let it
Nathan.
out, Jasmine.
You will get to talk, Nathan. I
This is
swear.
your safe
But
space.
But the AI in the game was bad. There were like 5 of the same character model walking towards you at the same speed, all in a line, just walking. And it didn't feel like they posed a threat. It didn't feel like they were scary. It didn't feel like I was going to die to them. The main thing we were dying from, the one time Aaron died in the whole stream yesterday, was to the red mist. Like, we didn't ever die to the AI, which I feel like is really bad. And then another thing is that, like, you're in a combat area, you know, it's clearly a combat area. It's a big open space. You know that this is where you're going to have to fight AI. And then the music
You have to fight
already,
ChatGPT.
the music already was really like buggy for both of us. So then at the end of an encounter, the music would still be playing. We'd be like, okay, there's probably more enemies we have to fight, but we can't find them. Turns out they're 5 miles away, stuck behind a car. And they're still just walking forwards into this car and not even coming towards us because they're just broken. And it literally felt like I was playing like a beta. It did not feel like I was playing a released, finished game when I saw. And it happened so often. It's like, how are these AI meant to like pose a threat or be enjoyable to fight or satisfying to kill when they're like walking into a wall and not even looking at me? Like, what is that about?
I will say though that their shots they like, you know, carry a lot of damage, so that whenever you did end up in their line of fire or something, it would deplete. It's just the fact that they wouldn't overwhelm you, and they're getting stuck in the world like Jasmine says. And the vampires, which are the main sort of like draw of this, they're like annoying to fight more than anything because they're constantly darting about the screen, jumping. You can't get a lock on them. And like Jasmine was making fun of it a little bit on the stream a bit, but there's like no aim assist at all. Like none, which might be fine for like a lot of people, but in terms of like a PvE game, you want like I tried adjusting the sensitivity on my Elite Series 2 controller, and it felt like I was always trying to have to do too much work just to line up a shot. And when I did line up a shot on a vampire, poof, they're gone already.
Yeah, I think
so
I kind of forget how important
shotgun.
aim assist is to controller players because obviously I play keyboard and mouse.
Yeah,
but yeah, now that you point it
Yeah.
out, I can imagine you were using your joystick like so much just to be able to aim.
Yeah.
Well, it's literally like the only way I can describe it is it's like very stiff. It's like this. It doesn't have like the smoothness of like a, you know, they don't know what directional diagonal direction means. I don't know.
So this is I don't know if you can see, guys, but this is the bit where Jasmine's weapon just disappears.
See, this feels like a clip out of a beta, right? It feels like,
Yeah,
oh my
it
God,
does.
Jasmine, where's your gun gone? And I was like, what do you mean, where's my gun gone? Aaron's like,
And does
Jasmine, your
it
gun's
just
disappeared.
magically reappears now? Let
I
me
had
just
to
go
cycle
back
through
to
my weapons. I had to cycle through
there
my
you are.
weapons
Look, just
to get them
standing
back.
there,
Just chilling on an empty bed frame.
Yeah, let me see where. I mean, phew.
I mean, I don't know why I've got my hands out like that with nothing there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You're ready for action.
I mean, it's been a cracking 13 minutes. If you've missed 30 minutes, like, rewind and listen. It's been a cracking 30 minutes. Thanks to everyone who's watching us on YouTube and Facebook. We're live on both platforms right now. And please let us know what you think of Redfall. We've got the gameplay here. We streamed it yesterday. So let us know what you think about it. And chime in if you've heard anything or you played it yourself. Let us know if you played it. And yeah, don't be afraid to drop a comment or drop a chat. And please like and subscribe as well. We've got a few comments. Edge of Light's in here. Thank you. He says, sorry. No worries. Really glad you joined in. Appreciate it. Scott's got my segue sorted for next time. I'm going to save that, so don't read the chat. I'll use that a bit later on. Kawaii Issue's also in there. Thanks for joining us. Is my stream lagging, or is this just how the game looks?
That's
how the game looks.
Yes.
Yes.
This is how the game looked. It was that bad. I promise you.
Absolutely. JD Incinerators are here as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. It says, here's the fun alternative take of the game. I am bread and apply it to Redfall and call it Breadfall.
It'll probably
okay,
score higher
that
than a
joke.
1 out of 5.
Yeah, I don't really get the joke. Maybe
That's like prime dad joke. How do you not get it?
Yeah. I Am Bread was
again.
another game where you play as a
right.
slice
Okay.
of bread.
Of course.
And
yeah.
it's probably a lot
Redfall.
more fun than Redfall. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get it. Cool. Edge of Light. Redfall sounds nice. Yeah, it sounds nice.
Doesn't play nice though. Edge of
Doesn't
Light.
play nice. Yeah.
Doesn't look
that's
nice
the,
either.
That's the thing. Can I just point out this is £70. This game.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's what I said yesterday. I was kind of like, even though
Jasmine
I got it
thought
for free
I
on
bought it,
Game
by the
Pass.
way.
No, yeah, I thought Aaron bought it, and I was like really disappointed for him. But even though it was free on Game Pass, I would say as soon as we finished streaming yesterday, I uninstalled it. Immediately.
Wow.
I didn't even want to give it another chance. Aaron was like, "Yeah, I played it for a couple more hours after we finished yesterday." I was like, "Nope, done.
Gone.
I am not even going to give it another go until they release about 100 different hotfixes to repair all of these issues because it's in an unplayable state." And people who didn't get it on Game Pass, I feel really bad for you. Like, I'm really sorry, but I feel really disappointed on your behalf right now.
Well, I feel like everyone's like been talking about this game's problems for like the, you know, the lucky thing is like obviously we first heard about the always online connection despite being single player, or you can play it single player, and then the 30 FPS lock. So hopefully, if you were excited for this game, I'd like to think that you had about 2 weeks there where you could have potentially like cancelled your pre-order, but obviously. Do you know what the thing is that next week we're going to get an announcement from Microsoft or Arcane saying thank you to the 3 million players who checked out Redfall and stuff, and like they're not going to say like what they think of Redfall, obviously, because they're going to try and spin this however they can. But
but they will have such a high player count because it's on Game Pass, right? Like,
well, of course, that's every game
giving
on
it
Game
a go.
Pass.
Yeah.
No
There was
matter
a
how
moment
terrible it is.
there where you were walking down the road and then the vampire just kind of stands there.
Yeah. They sort of wait for you to approach sometimes.
Yeah.
And at first I thought it was a case of that the vampires were like eating or something before you go and approach
No,
them.
but they're literally their model is just floating in the sky, ignoring you for like.
Don't you find
10
that funny
minutes.
though? How a lot of the models are floating in the sky, so they've made it that the vampires can like fly.
Can float, yeah.
No, convenient.
Yeah, sneaky. Also, something that I think in 2023 is an absolute basic is that you can't shoot out windows.
Yeah.
There was a moment. I don't know if you remember this, Aaron, but if there's a
Mate,
bit.
I blanked it all from my mind already.
So there's this bit here where you're trying to get into the house, right?
Oh.
There's only one specific
One
window you can
window.
There's
climb
one
in.
window, but that clearly, like you can see, that's clearly glass, right?
You can't.
the
you
fact
can't go through it.
The fact that
Literally
you can't
punching
get
it,
through,
and there's nothing there.
Guys,
Yeah.
Guys, this is my Joker moment
word.
live on the podcast. It's happening now.
But
Disney
the
Joker
fact that you
era.
couldn't get through a window, it's clearly glass, right? You've got a gun.
Yeah. Do you know why this is though? It's because, you know, in the tutorial mission, which Jasmine admittedly didn't do because she just jumped straight into my session, it says about, you know, approach buildings in different ways. You can sneak in through the top and stuff like that. And what it means by that is that there's like 3 different ways in terms of how you can get into a
Yeah,
building.
they're set. There's no creativity about how you get in. It's just
like
set ways.
Do you have a lockpick? Yes or no? Do you have a hacking device? Yes or no? Then you better find the one entrance to this building, basically.
Yeah. And also, one thing that kind of got me is that in this house specifically, a lot of the doors, especially downstairs, were like boarded up, and including the front door, they were like boarded up with wood. But then there's one bit that's boarded up, which highlights in white when you hover over it, and that bit you can destroy when you shoot it with a gun. You can destroy that boarded up bit, but not all the rest of the boards in the house. All the rest of the boards are just part of the environment. You can't destroy them. You can't do anything. So how comes I can destroy one specific bit of board with my gun and not all the rest of it? Explain.
Yeah.
I want to know the answer.
What
I'm
happened there?
actually
I was just watching the game, right? You went into a house then.
You've watched this more than I have, Nathan, let me tell you, and I was living it. So I'm glad someone was paying attention.
So there's this point here where you find an entrance, right? And you go enter, and there's not even
this is
any
safe house.
animation or any. Oh,
No,
it's a
you
safe
just
house.
appear.
Oh, okay.
You just appear.
That's the thing. And speaking to the animation point, sorry, Nathan, but it's a good segue. Like I tweeted this earlier, like the marketing for this game so far has been like, you know, sexy CGI trailers. The characters are looking badass, walking side by side to each other. The cutscenes in this game are glorious shows where it's literally just the character model is staying, and the camera's like moving like atmospherically.
I thought my game was glitching when I saw the cutscene for the first time. I genuinely thought that it was broken, and then Aaron was like, "No, this is what I'm seeing too," and I was like, "Oh." This is really disappointing.
I'm hearing the audio 2 minutes behind when you are, but it's the same thing I'm seeing. And like I noticed that as well, Nathan. It's like any point where the characters are expected to actually interact with the world. There's no open the door animation. It's fade to black, and then you're into it.
Yeah.
Because you would have seen with that safe house then, it was literally like 2 or 3 seconds. Like it wasn't even worth the fade down, fade up. So it's not loading that additional area. It's just very sloppy. And it's surprising considering that Arcane's last game before this, which was Deathloop, admittedly it's Arcane's other team. So Redfall is Arcane Austin, Deathloop is Arcane Leon. Deathloop, not my favorite game in the world, I'll be honest, because I find it to get a bit repetitive as well. But there was so many like cool like characters would do things in engine where you'd meet the other character. I can't remember what her name is that you're fighting the whole time. And this, it's kind of, it just feels lifeless and bland and rushed out, and yeah, it's really bad. Thank God it didn't come to PlayStation 5.
I'm just watching. I'm just watching the gameplay, and I know Kawhi said it before, but I don't know if that's because I've been so used to being spoiled with 60 FPS games recently and DLSS and things, and it's been a long time since a game came out and it wasn't on a handheld.
Stuck on the stairs here for ages.
Oh wow! It's been a long time since a game came out that wasn't on a Nintendo Switch or another handheld console that didn't reach 30 FPS as a minimum.
Yeah.
60 FPS. Like the fact that this can't. The fact this is locked at 30 is so jarring for me.
And guess what, Nathan? On the back of the box, if you pick this up physically, it states 60 frames per second on the back of the box, to the point that retailers have had to stick on like a temporary sticker saying coming at a later date. So this clearly wasn't the plan. And the final point, just to get out of my head, obviously we've got a load of comments. It'd be good to get them read in a second as well and hear the audience's reaction. But this is a looter shooter. But the only thing you're really looting is guns, and all these resources you see me and Jasmine pick up, it's either health, guns, or money. So like at one point, Jasmine was like, "Oh look, I found a pair of binoculars," and I'm like, "Well, good luck with that. You've probably earned like 5 cents or whatever it is." Like
I thought I'd be able to use them. I got really excited, and then Aaron explained to me that all these items you pick up just convert automatically into this currency that you don't even end up using a lot of the time.
We haven't talked about the mission design.
There's no crafting involved or anything like that.
No.
Although
there's shops and stuff that you can buy loot from, but they're not very.
Right. Okay.
I will say at the end of the stream, like I said, we had a review discussion, and I did lay the claim that you couldn't like scrap guns in your inventory, and I did find out I had to do that in the end. But again, the game's just in terms of signposting, in terms of mission design, what you're able to do, like the pin system. The ping system. Oh my God! Did you see that, Nathan?
I was waiting for you to bring that one up.
I saw it.
We were like,
what's
a game?
Sorry,
like
go on. Let me pause it. So
you have to reach. Yeah. So in games like Apex Legends, I guess, like online shooters, like the ping system is crucial, right? For saying like, can you shoot over here? Enemies are over here. I don't know if Destiny has one actually. I don't recall it having one.
Warzone has one. Yeah.
Warzone has one.
Fortnite even has one.
The hour and a half me and Jasmine initially played. We were like, oh, if only there was a ping system, because we're constantly saying over there, that they're to your right. They're like doing this to the enemies. You have to hit, not until level 5 do you unlock a ping system.
What?
It was like crazy.
Wow. There is a moment here as well that Jasmine's character sort of has like, look, I mean,
this is what I was talking about. Yeah. I was just
does that happen constantly?
When that was happening to you, Jasmine, the camera wasn't vibrating, I'm assuming. It's just like...
No, I was normal. I was completely fine. That's why you were like, Jasmine, oh my God, what's happening? And I was like, what? What's happening? Like, I didn't really know what you were talking about.
I'm sure if you leave it playing, Nathan, I'm sure I look at her again while it's happening. I don't know.
Yeah, let me go. Did they just say Alonzi as well? Like in Doctor Who style?
Yeah, so my character, Devinder, who I believe I played, he's British. And I will say, I think they went for the David Tennant Alonzi. But he also calls... It's actually one of the things I enjoyed most about the game, funnily enough. Like, he doesn't call it television or TV, he calls it the telly. So like whoever was in charge of like the casting, they did a good job. I'll say that.
Clearly knows their English. Their
Britishisms.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to leave this playing for a bit. I'll read some comments out. Connor says, "Oh, hi Connor, thanks for tuning in, mate." He said, £70 for an alpha. Yikes. Well, yeah, absolutely. JD said, I'd feel even sorry for those who don't have Game Pass, bought Redfall for 70 and have had to make 77 gigabytes of space for it and then finding out how big of a travesty it is. Well, yeah, that's...
How big is it on PC, Jasmine?
I had to actually clear 120 gigs for it. I had to clear it as well. I didn't have the space. I deleted 120 gigs worth of work videos yesterday. And I was just like, okay, well, that's fun.
Okay.
And then I just uninstalled it straight away. Oh, anyway.
Scott said as well, like I said in the stream yesterday, AAA co-op focus game is an instant red
Look at
flag
that.
for me.
Look at that.
What
I'm
happened?
in the ground.
Oh,
There you go. You're
my-
melting now.
That right there is that's unfinished game
yeah.
101, isn't it?
Ship it.
If
Cut the
you,
check.
if you, like, I'm guessing. I mean, it's like a guess that is backed up by, like, you know, actual knowledge of how game development works. But there's like quality QA.
There was
that
no
goes
QA
into-
with this game.
If
There
you
was no
saw that
QA.
as a QA, as a dev, you'd be like, no, that's not. We can't let that go. You know what I mean? I don't know how. Obviously, Aaron, you're right. It was rushed out, right? It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
game ended an E3 conference once, guys. Like that. This was Microsoft's big.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Get ready, everyone. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. We got JD Incinerator as well. I played Babylon's Fall, but all I played was the Square Enix sign-up page. Scott as well says, genuinely can't believe something this poor came from Arcane. Wow. Yeah. Deathloop is 10 out of 10 until you realise there's only one solution to the game. Well, I haven't played it, so yeah.
I think
don't
we might
know.
have some Zelda spoilers in the comments.
I have just removed it, yes. Heatwave
Yeah.
2.0, please do not put spoilers in the chat for everyone. That is not very nice. I've just deleted that. Come on, guys. Like, right. That's my piece to camera.
I mean, if those were... Yeah. Anyway.
No. JD, Redfall is Arcane and Bethesda's Anthem.
Yeah, never played Anthem,
Interesting.
but I didn't need
and
to.
then Kawaii, this just looks like a terrible Borderlands. Yeah, it does have that sort of like
That's,
art style,
that's the
doesn't it?
thing. Like, we did this 10 years ago, guys. Why are we
Yeah.
still getting it wrong? Like, Borderlands has
Yeah.
perfected all of this. And, like, people were like... So when people levied the Borderlands comparison towards Arcane in this game, they were very quick to say, well, not actually. It plays more like Far Cry and stuff like that. And I'm like, guys...
It
this
doesn't
is-
play. Stop. I don't know what it plays like.
Yeah.
It doesn't play.
It's not good at all. Like,
I feel
not at
like
all.
this kind of links back to this debate that was had around when Warzone 2 came out about whether or not games should be released in the state they're currently in, or people would prefer to wait for them to come out in a sort of like actual finished state. And it's like, this makes it so obvious that games shouldn't ever be rushed out. Don't put a release date out unless you're 100% sure the game is going to be in a playable state when it comes out, because I feel like Redfall, if it worked, could have been a really, really good game. It could have been amazing. And Aaron sort of rounded off the stream yesterday by saying that this would make a really good podcasting game, something to sort of do in the background while you're having a chat with your mates, or
Yeah.
you know, while you're doing a podcast. It's a really good game for stuff like that.
I'm
Something
playing
to
it right now, guys,
back.
while I'm on the podcast. It's a very good podcast game. Yeah.
You're just sort of something you can just sit back and melt into your sofa and play. You don't have to put like tons of brain work into it.
Which
But
is
now
a
that
shit-
it's like this, now that
That's
it's
right.
like this, it's like no one, even when they do fix it now, no one's going to touch it. It's like the Warzone effect, right? Warzone 2 came out,
Yeah.
it was so terrible in release, and it was so buggy that it lost so much of their player base that people now aren't going to come back to it even when it does work. And I feel like that's what's going to happen to Redfall now, because I'm never going to touch that again.
I know that when Jasmine says, because like I said, people tend to put Arcane Studios on this pedestal. Their games have never really done anything for me. I played the original Dishonored, and I had a really bad time with it, to be honest, because I got stuck in the world and I couldn't use my teleport power to like get out of this pit for like what felt like an hour. And I was like, this is just it's too open. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, anything's possible, but it also has its drawbacks as well. But for a lot of people, Arcane was the thinking man's like FPS immersive sim type thing, and this is just a dumbed down version of a style of game that was perfected 10 years ago that Microsoft, like Jasmine, like makes the good point of, well, why didn't you delay or whatever? It's already been delayed by a year.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
know.
if they didn't
it's so
have this,
embarrassing.
not to go back on the Xbox bandwagon again, but like this is what I've been saying, guys. Like, if this is the best Xbox has got, and the truth is that it isn't the best Xbox has got, because this is a Bethesda game. If they didn't purchase Bethesda at the beginning of 2021, what would we be playing on Xbox this year? Nothing. I was talking to a friend of mine who was reviewing this ahead of time, so I knew it was going to be a bit terrible. He was telling me what a bad time he was having, and he literally said something like, Xbox has already lost this generation. They lost the last generation. We're 2.5 years into this one. They've already lost it, and now everyone's like got their eyes on Starfield to in the hopes that that's going to save everything. Personally, I can't see it happening. Like, if I was Starfield, if I was Todd Howard and seeing the criticism that 30 FPS lock was having on this game, I'd come out and assure everybody immediately, Starfield runs at 60 FPS. Bang.
Yeah.
But he hasn't said it, and we all know why.
We'll get onto Starfield and the Xbox PlayStation chat in a minute, but I just want to ask just a general question to both of you. What is the last AAA title that came out that hit expectations?
God of War Ragnarok.
I was going to say the same thing.
What game? Who developed that
It's
game?
always PS5
what's the-
exclusives, though. It's always the PS5 exclusives that are like hitting now.
What about the game before that?
Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man.
What platform's that on?
That was really
PlayStation
good.
5. I mean, it's Nintendo and PlayStation. Like Zelda comes out next week, and that's going to be capped at 30 FPS, all right. But
it's
that's fine.
People know that it's a Nintendo. You got to play it on the Switch. Yeah.
But I guarantee you now that that game will have more artistic value, be more polished, run better, and they're working on mobile hardware that's 7 years old by this point. So the fact that Arcane is developing a game exclusively for quote unquote the world's most powerful console, and they can't even hit 60 FPS. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm just trying. That's all right. I'm just trying to like voice the frustration and opinion of Xbox players right there now. Because what if you buy Nathan? We had a morning meeting this morning. I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but you said why would anybody buy an Xbox? You just get a PC, a PlayStation, and a Nintendo. Why spend 450 quid on a Series X if this is all the best you can get?
But this is what I kind of spoke about a little bit on the stream yesterday. Is that obviously like you can play whatever on a PC, but in terms of like bringing Xbox exclusives to PC, it's like meant to be like, oh yeah, you can access them there as well. I have got a monster of a PC. It is a giant behemoth machine. I've got a 4080, I've got a 13th gen Intel processor, I've got 32 gigs of RAM, and it is literally like it creates so much heat in my room. But this machine shouldn't ever right now struggle to run anything. No matter what I'm doing in the background, even if I'm editing a video in Premiere Pro and using Photoshop and running OBS and playing the game at the same time, this PC shouldn't struggle with any game. So why was I getting literally 1 FPS for half of my gameplay yesterday? For 45 minutes out of an hour and a half, I was on 1 FPS. I was saying, Aaron, wait, I can't even follow you because I don't know what's going on. I can't even see anything. Why was that
you can
happening?
understand, like, when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, right? Obviously, it had a terrible launch as well. Very similar sort of thing to this, but there was so much hype around it, maybe even more than Redfall.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I nearly fell into Redfield then again, Aaron, what you said. Before,
I mean, I'll talk about Resident Evil anytime.
Yeah. But you can kind of understand because when that came out, you were on the 30 series graphics cards and the CPUs weren't quite as powerful, and people were like, it was almost like a thing where it was like, okay, we know that the game is so intensive, right? We have to max out our GPU to get 60 frames a second. We have to turn ray tracing off. We have to turn it down. Like, if you put it on high, you're going to get max 30. Okay, you can accept that because you can see that it's an amazing looking game and you can see what is going into that. But with Redfall, from what I can see here, I didn't see your gameplay, but if it's anything like what you were experiencing, Jasmine, and you're experiencing 30 frames a second, that is just so poorly optimized. That cannot be your hardware. It has to be the optimization of the game itself because it just should not run. It doesn't look good enough to not run at 60. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't make sense to me.
Having a shooter running at anything less than 60, even if it is PvE, just doesn't ever make sense to me. Ever make sense to me.
I've got an RTX 3070 and a Ryzen 7 3800X.
Oh, mate, good luck even launching that game.
Right. I get 140, 150 frames on Warzone 2 in medium settings.
You wouldn't be able to run Redfall. Yeah,
and
you'd get
so many people say that Warzone 2 runs really poorly. I mean, compared to this, like, if I'm getting, I wonder what frames I'd be getting on that.
I'm never going to complain about my frames in any games ever again. I'm so sorry, Riot Games, for complaining about my frames in Valorant. I'm so sorry. I'm never going to complain ever again.
Frames win games, Jasmine. That's what we know. That's what we know.
I'm never going to complain about any game ever again. I'm happy.
Yeah, we've got a few more comments in the chat as well. Kawaii Kishu says, I will not take this slander on Borderlands.
Thank you, Kawaii. Borderlands, everyone gives a load of crap because of the humour, is a really fun game, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is as well.
Yeah. Scott is in, said Resident Evil 4. Yeah, I mean, Yes,
For AAA,
smash
yeah.
that. Resident Evil Village before that. Can you talk about? I mean, Matt, I think that's in a slightly different. That's in a slightly different place, isn't it? Resident Evil 4 as a remake rather than a brand new title from the ground up, maybe.
But it's like all new assets. They've changed things around. It is for all
suppose,
intents
yeah.
and purposes a brand new game. Obviously, it's single player, but the benefit that they have that Capcom uses is the RE engine, which we're going to see Street Fighter 6 run on as well. This was built on Unity. Or was it Unity? I think it's Unreal Engine 4, which obviously is like a really popular engine to use.
Yeah.
Does it look like it runs on Unreal Engine 5, Nathan?
Look at these cutscenes. This is the
cutscene.
This is the cutscene. What? Look at this.
It's literally
Why
like
is no one moving?
dioramas.
No one moved.
It's
This
an
was it.
artistic choice. You know
What?
That's what you know.
And there's people talking. Your character's narrating this, by the way, while it's going through this. All this text at the bottom. Your character's actually narrating it and speaking.
What?
That's the cutscene that you get when you sort of like get
Whereas
into
if
the
you
game.
watch any of the TV spots or like YouTube trailers and stuff, it's all this sort of like sexy like CGI thing.
Yeah.
And that's always baffled me because we're reaching the point now where what do they call it? Pre-rendered cutscenes.
Yeah, out of
trailers.
engine and stuff.
Out of engine stuff. Like, Sony was able to do some amazing stuff with God of War Ragnarok. And I know we've already name-checked that game, but even more impressive with that is, yes, it's a PS5 game, but it's also on PlayStation 4 as well. Like, I haven't really looked into the PS4 version much, but from what I have seen, it looks a heck of a lot better than Redfall, which is a Series X exclusive. It cannot be played on Xbox One.
Well, I mean, The Last of Us Part 2, when did that come out on PlayStation 4? Are you talking like 10 years ago now?
Part 2 or Part 1?
Yeah, Part 2. Oh, sorry, Part 1. Part 1.
What, you mean like the original?
Yeah,
part
the
one?
original one. Yeah,
Part
the
2
original.
was not 10 years ago.
Yeah,
So
that was
the original
2013. Yeah,
2013. So
PS3.
yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That had cutscenes in.
Yeah.
It's
that
just
were
time.
really good.
Like they've rushed this out. Like it's clear as day. The mission design's bland. There are no cutscenes. They don't know what to do with the loot, so they just like hodgepodge it into a currency. That's it. End of.
Why did I
who
pick
does
up
this-
binoculars that turned into money? Like I was, and binoculars would have actually been a really good addition in that game because they put a telescope in, and considering that you can't see where you're meant to be going to get across a log to get to oh god, that's really annoyed me. But it would have been a really good addition.
Yeah, but who does this benefit rushing it out? Obviously, people buy the game, right? You get pre-orders and stuff, but like in the long term, all the negative press you're going to get about it, it doesn't. It was
just a lost cause, Nathan. They had to get out the door for their financial.
I think it would have been
quarter, if I
too
had to
long.
guess.
It would have been too long to
Too much
fix
work to
it.
fix, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't know if you guys noticed this, because obviously we're all based in the UK at the Mirror Gaming, but I've not seen billboards for Redfall.
No.
I've not seen like bus posters, stuff like that.
No.
Mark my words now, as soon as we get closer to Marvel Spider-Man 2 on PS5, and as soon as we get to Starfield's release, even because that's too big a game that you can't advertise it on that level. So I think that alone tells you that Microsoft didn't really have confidence in this game. And they knew exactly what it was.
But the thing is about this game is that now it's like really, I think, severely impacted the launch of Starfield.
Of course.
Because people like, even now, I'm thinking, okay, am I even going to play Starfield? Is there even a point? And I was really excited about it. We spoke about it in the pod a few weeks ago. I was really excited about Starfield. I was saying, oh yeah, this is probably going to be one of the first like single player games I'm actually going to get into. And now I'm like, am I even going to be able to launch it? Is it even going to run on my computer?
That's my next question, right? After this, how much pressure is on Starfield? Like
Oh, so
for
the whole
Xbox?
company's riding on it now.
If that comes out, and we know that that's Bethesda as well, right?
Yeah.
If that comes out, Bethesda, different team, but Bethesda are known for releasing games with bugs. The Fallout series.
That's the thing. Like Arcane used to release polished games. Deathloop was a polished game.
Yeah.
When it was a PS5 exclusive. And guess what? Ghostwire Tokyo, another Bethesda game. It was a PS5 exclusive for a year. That ran at 60 FPS. And then we hear from Digital Foundry that Ghostwire Tokyo, even though it had a year to sort of get ported to Xbox or whatever it was, even though they would have started work on that probably before Ghostwire was released on PlayStation 5, it somehow releases worse on the Xbox version. So the fact that Starfield... Because the big thing we were hearing about this game was that the PS5 version was cancelled so they could focus fully on the Xbox version. That's not true. The reason why it was cancelled is because they needed an Xbox console exclusive, and that they became a first party studio. So sorry to interrupt, Nathan, but
no, it's all right. Connor's just in the chat. White LMAO. Redfall is a Bethesda title. I don't know if you want to answer that, Aaron. We were talking about that earlier on.
Yeah, so basically, obviously, Microsoft purchased Bethesda, right? But Bethesda still very much acts as its own standalone entity. So Bethesda is a publisher that still has studios below it. But one of which being Bethesda Game Studios, who are making Starfield, Arcane, who make Deathloop and this, and then they've also got id Software that make the Doom games, some really polished games. They've also got Machine Games, who make the Wolfenstein series and are working on Indiana Jones now. So if anything, I'm really concerned with how Microsoft is managing these studios, because when they buy these studios, again, I'm on one of my tirades, we either don't hear anything from them for months or years on end. They bought the Hellblade 2 developer, not seen that game ever since, despite it looking pretty good when it was revealed 3 years ago. And then when games do come out, they come out in an unfinished state like this.
Wow.
Halo Infinite, that is a first-party game, but that had its own problems as well. So you can't even put the full blame on Bethesda,
That released without co-op campaign, which is probably the biggest thing that Halo players like. And it released without Forge, which is the most creative mode, which is also one of the biggest reasons people play Halo.
Can I just say, I know I'm coming on strong. This is the last thing I'll say on the matter, Nathan. But I feel like,
carry on. Please carry on.
For the longest time, I've been the outlier here, and that I feel like I've just been the one taking crazy pills. But Redfall seems to be the straw that's broken the camel back, where Xbox players who have made excuses for Xbox now are finally starting to come to terms with okay, maybe we should be expecting more. Yes, you should be.
Nathan say this morning, guys, what's the point of me owning an Xbox when he's literally got 500 Xboxes on the shelf behind him, was a wake-up call for me. I was like, oh, damn, even Nathan is sort of straying away or thinking about straying away from Xbox now. What does this say for the next gen of consoles? Xbox is literally setting themselves up for failure with this next generation of consoles. Obviously, I'm going to start talking about hardware because that's what I do. But the next generation of consoles, no matter how powerful the hardware is in them, people are just going to know there's no point getting them, because why would you when you can pick up a PlayStation and get these amazing Game of the Year contending exclusive titles on PlayStation? Why would you even bother with
and now with PlayStation games slowly but surely being ported to PC, granted The Last of Us Part 1 didn't go that well, but Returnal was okay, God of War was okay, Uncharted was okay. There's an argument to say that PS5 and PC and you're set.
I'm gonna go on to that, guys, don't worry. Just got to get through some comments because we've got so many in the chat. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us. If you've got any thoughts on what we're talking about, please let us know, because there's a lot of emotion in this room right now. So if you've got any emotion, please let it out in the chat, and we'll do our best to read them out. JD Incinerator says, I think Nintendo's AAA games always reach expectations. I'd agree with that, but also they normally take 6
of the new Pokemon series. But
apart from that, they also take 6 or 7 years to do them, which is another thing as well. Scott McRae, a bit of a dig at Jasmine here. All that power and do plays League of Legends.
What's the need, Scott? What's the need?
No need. JD again says, Redfall seems like a launch now, patch later kind of game. Yeah, but I would have said that with Cyberpunk. When I first played Cyberpunk, I was like, okay, this is buggy as hell, but with a few patches, it's going to be amazing. The patches came out. By the time the patches came out, no one played it.
Yeah.
So it's too late.
But it doesn't matter because it sold like wild hotcakes anyway on Wildfire, so they made.
And they gave refunds though.
Well, on certain platforms they did.
Certain platforms, yeah.
But I still remember that clearly as day. It was like a week or two after they were announcing 10 million sales or whatever it was.
Mad. Yeah. Connor again says, what's buggier, Fallout 4 or Redfall? I play Fallout 4. I haven't played Redfall. I played Fallout 4 on launch day. That was buggy. What do you think? What did you play? Did you play Fallout 4?
I didn't play Fallout 4.
No.
So.
Aaron?
I dabbled in Fallout 4. I think I played it for about an hour, and I didn't really have too many problems. But what I did play was Fallout 76, and I played that for a review at a time for an outlet, and that was, I can't describe it. No. So Redfall is better than Fallout 76. Nice one, Connor. You found a game that is worse than Redfall.
Nice one. Kawaii Kishu as well. My dad, who's really old, asked for help buying a PlayStation after being an Xbox player his whole life. Even the Dino generation won out. That's not very nice. I suppose if that's your dad, you're allowed to say that. But I've never heard that expression before.
Mr. Kishu.
Yeah, that's a great way of segueing. Yeah, this morning I sort of had a bit of this morning and yesterday was what I was watching the stream, and I had a bit of an epiphany where I was just thinking about my experience as an Xbox player. Obviously bought the Xbox Series X at launch, got it when it came out. what have I played on it? Like, what
Yeah,
have
what
I
have you
actually
played on
played
it?
on it? I've played FIFA.
Right.
I
Something
played
that you could have played on anything
Cyberpunk.
else.
I played Cyberpunk 2077. If you remember, Cyberpunk 2077, the next gen version was delayed. It only came out on the last gen consoles, if you remember. So I played that for a bit. Didn't finish it because I was waiting for the next gen patch, and then finished Cyberpunk when the next gen patch came out. Played a bit of Warzone on it. Played a few of the F1 titles on it.
Nothing that you wouldn't have had a better time playing on your PC.
Did you played
Same.
Halo Infinite? It sounds like, Nathan, but you didn't
Played
have a
Halo
good time with
Infinite.
it.
Played Halo Infinite.
Did you play
the
Forza 6? Forza Horizon 5,
bit.
was it?
I mean, Forza Horizon isn't really my bag. I prefer the motorsport series because I'm a bit more of a sim racer than just like.
As an
fun,
arcade racing fan like me, like a burnout guy through and through,
yeah.
like honestly, those are the best games on Xbox.
They're
Forza
amazing.
Horizon games for
Graphically,
me.
Yeah.
they're
Graphically,
unbelievable.
technically,
Yeah.
and that's why like Playground Games make those games. That it's really
Yeah.
exciting that Playground are working on Fable. Whether or not it releases in time for this generation is another thing entirely.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
the problem that Xbox has. It's made all these investments, and we're still not seeing the fruits of it. Yeah.
So what have I gained? When I made the decision to buy an Xbox Series X over a PlayStation 5, I kind of
own
almost
a PlayStation 5, Nathan.
No,
at the
I
moment?
don't.
Okay.
No. I almost did it out of sort of not habit, but just kind of. I've been Xbox for so long.
Brand
It's been
loyalty.
my platform.
It's brand
Allegiance.
I think it
loyalty,
is. I
yeah.
think it is. Yeah. I mean,
It's just because you feel like you're an Xbox player that you feel like you have to get an Xbox without
which is
sort of
really
thinking about
interesting.
it.
Yeah, which is really interesting because for audio visual equipment, I'm a really big Sony fan. I think I'm a really big fan of Sony products. I think their TVs are outstanding compared to the competition, and I've always been like a really like with Sony sound and stuff as well, which is really interesting. Why I went Microsoft and Xbox. But I was just thinking about kind of that decision, why I made that decision. It was almost like I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, the Xbox, like, it's the most powerful console, but I'm going to get that one. But then, like, what? I've missed out on God of War Ragnarok. I've missed out on Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I've missed out on
Demon
Help
Souls,
Me Out.
Returnal, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. You know, all these games. Yeah.
And for what? What's the upside? It's because it's the most powerful console.
For games that launch either without features or half broken. And it's interesting because I feel like I'm right in saying in that, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but most people's console journeys, beginning from the PlayStation 2 was a monster. It was like the console,
Everyone had
right?
that. Yeah,
everyone
absolutely.
had a PS2 because it had a built-in DVD compatibility, so why wouldn't you buy it? It was the same price as DVD player. It was PS2, then most people went 360, then most people went PS4, and now most people have gone PS5. And the reason that the 360 was the outlier there is because they had great games and they cared about gamers, and that was the only place. Like the PS3, what was it? They had the cell architecture, which made it hard to develop for. So third-party games ran better on the 360. And luckily, one of the few things that Xbox is doing right with Game Pass is also the backwards compatibility function.
Yeah.
But that's not a sexy feature to talk about. Like, how many people are actually popping in Max Payne on the original Xbox on their disc? I mean, crazy loons like I'm doing that because I've got nothing better to do and too many games to play as it is. But honestly, since that press conference, whenever it was at like 2012, 2013, when Xbox One got announced and they said, we're not focusing on games, we're focusing on being the all-in-one entertainment system, everybody jumped ship onto PlayStation 4, and Xbox has been licking their wounds ever since.
Yeah.
Whew.
I didn't have a PlayStation 4 either. I had an Xbox One, and then I had an Xbox One X, which was the 4K version. And then I went to the Xbox Series. Yeah, and then I went to the Xbox Series X after that. But yeah, I just thought I'd share with everyone that little bit of like existential sort of internal discussion I was having with myself, like around. I didn't even think about that decision. Do you know when it got announced? It was just sort of
They got
you. Get an Xbox. That's what I'm used to. That's my platform. I'm used to it. I know the dashboard. I know how it works. I've got the Xbox account. All my games are on there. I've got all the achievements. I've got my gamer tag. And then whenever, like Jasmine, for example, or anyone else who's got a PlayStation who I know, whenever I go onto their PlayStation, like look at the games they've got and the games they're playing and the experience they're getting, I'm thinking like, oh, have I missed out on something?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So obviously I didn't have a PlayStation 5 until quite recently when Matt sent me his PlayStation 5. And as soon as I,
I'm the only one on this podcast
Thank you,
that
Matt.
purchased their PS5. You're welcome,
Yeah.
Sony. That's why I'm allowed
Thank you,
to
Matt.
praise them.
No, but this is the thing: is that as soon as I sort of like launched it up, because obviously I'm testing SSDs in it, I have to play games on it. I was like, right, okay, I played the first thing I played was Spider-Man on it, and I was like, oh, okay, I've missed out. This is a really good game, and I sort of got into more of the other titles, and I was like, oh, I really screwed up not getting a PS5 sooner. And now, when Matt inevitably does take it back, which he hasn't yet, please, Matt, let me keep it for a bit longer. But when he inevitably takes it back, the first thing I'll be doing is marching myself down to Argos and getting myself a PS5, because I literally feel like now, if I don't have one, I am going to be missing out big time on.
Yeah.
And I don't even like single player titles that much, but I still just feel like I want to have a PS5 just to be able to play these games.
And you can upgrade the storage by putting in an SSD, which is, I mean, have you seen the price of the Xbox storage? It's ridiculous. And
Proprietary, isn't it?
Yeah, what I find really on their don't even get me started on their audio, proprietary audio. Oh my god!
Wait, can we stop for 1 second here? Aaron said that he didn't see the blue highlight thing to put down the 2 cigars and whiskey in the game yesterday. It's literally right there. You walked past it twice.
Hang on,
the game didn't signpost it as far well enough.
It was
Is your gun
blue.
gone again? Is your gun gone again? Did I just notice?
No, that was a different character. That was a different character.
Oh, that was a different character.
Not to name and shame you, Aaron. I'm really sorry, but it's
all right.
there. It's there. Look.
Yeah, oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, it's on the side, but like,
was it on in the kitchen?
It's on the kitchen counter. There's
but
two
is that
blue
near? Is
things.
that near that
There,
person stood
right
there?
there,
Look at
right
that.
in front of you.
That's like
Yeah.
that's like 10
Yeah.
feet.
That's
That
where
is
you're meant to
not
put it
near
down.
Ava.
But it's bright blue. That's where you're meant to put it.
Jasmine, if it said put it in the kitchen counter, put it on the kitchen side, I would have been straight
You're
there.
looking at it, Aaron.
Yeah.
You're looking at it. So you're
But
walking
my
straight
eyes are
towards
darting around
it.
the other screen. I'm engaging with the chat. I don't know what else I'm meant to be looking at.
You know what I find really funny as well?
I'll die on this
Is
hill.
when there was, I'm trying to just move away from this.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What I find really funny was that I felt I had an almost I wasn't like overly like it, but I was a bit like, oh, isn't it funny how you can't get a PS5? Like, I made the right decision, like buying the Xbox Series X. Like, I've got the console you can get.
There's a reason why.
But maybe there was a reason why, and I mean, Redfall's been a really big eye opener for me.
That's kind of like what I was
personally.
saying. Like, I think a lot of people are coming to terms now. Like, what am I doing with this £350 or £450 machine under my TV? Because the only front that Xbox are winning on is Xbox Game Pass. Except they're not winning because Xbox Game Pass doesn't make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said it countless times before. And the other aspect we haven't talked about is that it's quickly becoming the case that, oh, I'm glad I didn't pay for that game. I'll use Xbox Game Pass. And is that what you want to load onto Xbox Game Pass from a first party standpoint? Games you're not willing to pay for.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whereas all those PlayStation games I listed, and Nathan's already said it, Jasmine's already said she had a great time with Spider-Man and stuff like that. Again, I sound like I'm a broken record. Xbox Game Pass doesn't make money, and great games are worth paying for.
Can I just add in Gran Turismo as well? Which, I mean, I'm a big sim racer. And, you know, I'm missing out on that. I mean, I know we've got Forza Motorsport coming.
Gran Turismo 7 on PSVR 2. I'm not really a racing game
Missed
person.
out.
The only one I played was Forza. But
Nathan, you haven't missed
really
out
good.
because it's not too late, mate. You've
I
realised
know,
the error of
I
your
know.
ways. You're come to the light. We'll have you. We're more than welcome.
Okay.
there might be a
okay.
PS5 Pro coming out soon. Maybe that's what you're holding out for. Maybe that was the intention the whole time.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of been a bit of an eye opener for me. If anyone else in a similar position, it'd be really interested to hear. Put your comments in. I'm going to read a few comments out because I know we've got a few, and then we'll go back to the chat. Edge of Light says, "I love Xbox games a lot. Before I had the original PlayStation and the Nintendo DS, and now the Xbox 360." So same position as me. Scott, I feel like Xbox don't actually care about selling consoles. If they could get Game Pass on PS5 Switch, they would. That's where their strategy is. I doubt they would do that, but
The company that thinks they can get Call of Duty on Switch thinks that they can get Xbox Game Pass on Switch.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, I wrote an article around that for Mirror Gaming about how that's just like the CMA called them out on that. I mean, just ridiculous claims. JD says, "I wish more gangster shooter games are like the Getaway." What a game. Just
JD's
so
in
random.
his own world.
So
I'm just saying,
random.
he does
Yeah.
this all the time. I'm on
Yeah.
stream and he'll be like, "What do you think of Hogs of War?" And then before you know it, I'm like slandering Jasmine's sister because she can't play Worms
You know,
correctly.
as JD as well brings that out in me as well, because I always come out with like, you know, remake when for like my favorite games. I always just put it in there because it's just like,
Yeah,
find
what
it
was
funny.
the Xbox platformer that you said the other day remake?
Oh,
for-
the monster. Oh, what is it? The where you play like little dragons. What are they called?
not Skylanders, but something else.
No, it's something else. I'll think of it in a minute. I'll think of
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
If anyone in the chat can think about it, it was a Xbox 360 launch title, and
It's
you
like
played as
Calypso or
these.
something.
It was what?
Calypso, was it something like that?
Killer, yeah,
Anyway,
something like that. Yeah, if someone can help me, yeah, we digress. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, sorry, Aaron, you were saying
Oh, I just wanted to say, like, obviously, I think
cameo, Scott. Thank you,
Cameo,
Yes,
there you
cameo
go.
remake when?
There you go.
Yeah,
I just wanna
Zone
say-
of the Elders remake.
Elders?
when? Sorry,
Enders.
Zone of the Enders. Sorry.
Zone of the Elders.
Sorry, Zone of the Enders. I mean, that was a obviously PlayStation title as well. So
Yeah.
let's go back to that. Sorry, Aaron, carry on.
Well, all I was going to say is, like, I think we've bashed on Redfall enough. We bashed about the state of Xbox. The other side of this story that we haven't talked about yet, and I realize that we've been going almost an hour, but come on, do we really need to talk about
have we?
Zelda? Do we need to talk about Zelda gameplay, guys? It's out in less than a week. No, Jasmine's on the chat. She's going to talk about the Ally, which is important to get into. But it's the whole PC, the current state of PC ports, and not just ports,
Yeah.
but like games that aren't optimized for PC. This is the third game in a row now in about as many months that is released in an unfinished state. So
Yep.
we have The Last of Us Part 1. We just had Star Wars Jedi Survivor, an amazing game, 5 out of 5 according to me and according to the Mirror Gaming, especially on PS5. And now we've had Redfall, which, as Jasmine can attest to, is just an absolute art show on PC. So I really feel like, I mean, we keep saying that with the Xbox Series X, why have I bought the world's most powerful console? I can't even run this. But if you've invested thousands of pounds in a monster PC gaming rig, what are you getting from it in terms of hot new AAA game releases? Like, it's an absolute joke, to be honest.
What are you playing?
And I'm not even a PC
Yeah.
player.
What are you playing? Like, literally, what are you playing?
Guys,
It's just
let's not talk about this or I might cry because it's genuinely really heartbreaking. And the thing is that obviously before I got like a proper actual gaming PC, I was always like, oh yeah, once I have my gaming PC, I'll play all of these amazing games that I keep hearing about that are always coming out that I can't play yet because I didn't have a console and I used to game on a really crappy laptop. Now that I've got the PC, I can't even play them. They don't even work. They're not optimized. So it's kind of like, what are we meant to play? People criticize me, oh, why do you play League of Legends so much? Why do you play Overwatch 2 so much? Because they work. And it's like really miserable to say because they're really old crap games, but they always work. I never have to sit there and be like, oh my God, I wonder if League of Legends isn't going to run properly today. I wonder if I'm going to get 5 frames per second when I'm playing Overwatch 2. That doesn't happen. So
But I will say it's mainly like just recently in this year, because like I don't know what the last big PC games that like Resident Evil 4, like the PC version of that, like ran well. It's literally a case of that the developers aren't being given enough time to get these versions optimized correctly, and they are just using the patch process later as a get out. But it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they're using the consoles as a base version and then it's sort of the PC SKU is like secondary to that, because PC games are often priced slightly lower than console games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though the PC audience is probably a lot wider compared to PlayStation and Xbox.
I think that is one thing I appreciate about PC gaming, is that something that Aaron will probably have a go at me about, is that you typically on Steam, you get sort of like a couple of hours to trial a game and then refund it if it is in a really terrible state, which is sort of like, it gives you a bit more of like a push to give things a go because you know you can get a refund if it doesn't work, which obviously does mean that publishers of smaller games or shorter story games might miss out on whatever, but it does mean that you have that sort of safety blanket of like, yeah, I may as well give it a go, because if I play it for less than 2 hours within 14 days, I can get a refund, and that's the case on Steam and the Epic Games client. So it does give you that as a benefit, I guess, but I don't know.
I was really looking forward to Starfield, guys. I was honestly like, Starfield just sounds like the perfect game for me. Played No Man's Sky, didn't quite scratch the itch. Played other sort of space games that just not quite there. Starfield just looks like everything that I want it to be. But now I'm just thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't put all my hopes on it, which is sad. Like, you should be able to look forward to games, right? But
it's games are the only medium where the day that they release, you're not guaranteed to function as intended. You know what I mean? Like when a song comes out and it hits Spotify, that's going to have been edited and produced within an inch of its life. When you watch a movie, that's gone through various rounds of edits. We know exactly where to play. The beautiful how it's going to play and view. The beautiful thing about games is that you interact with them, and that we're afforded the ability to make changes within the game world and things like that. But that does unfortunately come at the cost of things breaking constantly. And yeah, particularly when it comes to the PC space, more and more it seems like a day one launch just isn't for you. Not only because that's going to be when the game is priced at its highest, but because it's not guaranteed to function as intended, because a lot of these games are coming in so hot to release within a certain time period to please the shareholders of the people that are publishing them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Connor's in the chat. Cats 2019 would like to have a word with you about unfinished releases.
Yeah, that is true.
I would also like to talk
that,
about the most of the Star Wars movies. Like, did anyone watch those before they came out?
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is that's subjective. Like, okay, this Star Wars movie's bad.
Okay,
but in terms of the director, that's what they wanted the audience to see. Whereas I doubt that Stig Amerson, or the creative director of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, wants people to fall through the world and stuff like that. Obviously,
yeah. There's no like Game of Thrones coffee cups or anything in films normally quite. Although in I think The Last of Us, they had like a TV camera crew in theirs as well and stuff.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like so bad that you can watch unless not watch unless you're talking about obviously tape issues. Then that's a different thing.
Or giraffes that are like abnormally tall or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Not to poke a bear, but
yeah, Matt, if you're watching, shout out to you for your picking up on those little things. Really appreciate that. Adam is also in the chat as well. Hi Adam, thanks for joining, mate. League of Legends doesn't work, but that's the shoddy coding and in-client problems. It's not on Steam, is it? So it's a different launcher.
It's got its own client. They've got the Riot client. But this is the thing, is that sometimes the client is buggy, but once you get in game, the game always works. Like, it's just. That's why I'll always play League of Legends. No one will ever get me away from it. It always works, no matter what you're playing on. You could probably launch that thing on a microwave and you'd be able to play it. I'm just saying, anyway. I'm
just really struggling to I know we talked about God of War Ragnarok, but God of War Ragnarok.
November.
I'm getting confused with the film, the Marvel film, Ragnarok, but
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah. That's what I'm struggling to think of the last AAA title that hit expectations. It's that one, but
then Scott brings up a good thing in the chat, like Resident Evil 4. Like, I had a great time on console. I don't think, and that's third party. So, and I think the Xbox version ran like that is bad. Like when Capcom is releasing a game that runs better on your console than games made by you, you need to step back. Phil Spencer, you need to look into the mirror and I don't care, how much money you're spending to acquire Activision. Why should I be excited about you acquiring them if the games that come out thereafter are going to be subpar?
$68.7 billion, and you couldn't make a AAA title that hit 30 FPS.
Yeah.
Ouch. Maybe don't buy Activision. Maybe give the devs more. Give the development team more devs to help them make the team better.
When we spoke about the Activision deal, that should have been their sign to be like, "Hey, what are we doing? This is a really bad idea. Let's take 5 steps back and sort of compile ourselves together and decide, hey, this is a really crap idea. Maybe we should focus on making Redfall and Starfield playable games on release." I mean, obviously we don't know about Starfield yet, but that's a lot of money that could have gone into those projects.
But we've already got a taste of an Activision game, Diablo 4, and it is running like a dream in those betas. Let me tell you guys, it is running like a dream.
The new beta is out soon, which is going to be exciting as well. But on very near the beta release, we're going to have a huge game release. I believe it's on the same day, isn't it? The 12th.
Yeah, it is. I've only just realised that in my head. Yeah. What are they doing, Activision?
Absolutely. It's going to be the launch of The Legends of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, and we've already seen some preview videos that have gone live on YouTube. Some of the biggest content creators and publishers have got access to some early gameplay. walking around Hyrule, showing off some of the mechanics. Not all of them. There are some things that obviously they couldn't do from the footage. I have watched as little as I can, but I couldn't help myself. I had to watch a little bit just to see what was going on. I'm trying to see how I'll word this, if I can word this correctly. From what you've seen, does it make you more or less excited about the game, Aaron?
It makes me, I'd say, about nothing will get me more hyped for Zelda than that last trailer we had.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, I'm still left stunned by it. In not only by the excellence of the trailer itself, but how much I've just come around on it in just 3 minutes worth of content. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the previews I thought were interesting, and the gameplay I've seen is interesting, but not necessarily surprising. More so than actually what we saw. I think what excited me more was learning a bit about the abilities and how they're going to function.
Yeah.
Specifically with the Fuse and Ultra Hand. I think specifically it's Ultra Hand. We learned during the last round of previews that you're able to save designs that Link makes. So obviously we saw during the 10-minute gameplay preview, around about a month ago, I want to say, that Link will be able to build vehicles that include boats and like sky ships, everything like that. And I tell you, it did run through my head. I'm like, what? I'm going to have to spend like 10, 20 minutes building something every time, only for it to get broken or for me to not need it. And obviously Nintendo, being the clever folks they are over there, they've already thought that far ahead. And I believe you can save, is it 5 Ultra Hand designs? I might be wrong about the amount, but it's something like you've built this and you can basically conjure it at any point to suit a specific need in the game, which I thought was really smart. So in terms of that little tidbit alone there, yeah, that gets me excited. I just want to see some bloody dungeons, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just playing through. I think this is another cut of the trailer that were released. It's a shorter version, maybe,
right,
of what they released before, with a few extra little bits in there, I believe, just to show off. But I mean,
yeah, well, 1,600 of you have viewed me and Nathan giving our extensive breakdown on the channel. So thanks for that.
Were you going to say 1.6 people? That
yeah, 1.6 people. My mum, Jason, and
yeah. I mean, I'm really excited. I think the only little thing that is bothering me ever so slightly is the similarities
still
between
this and Breath of the Wild. Yeah,
I was going to say because it's still kind of like, oh yeah, are the maps going to be similar and stuff like that? It's been 6 years. If the maps are similar, that's quite sad. Like, I'm sorry.
That's exactly what I said, Jasmine. That's exactly.
Years.
If I'm exploring the same world again, but I have to refine the stuff that I've already found, or the world that's on top, obviously with the floating islands and stuff. If that's not enough new experience for me, I don't know if that will ruin the experience. I'll have to obviously find out when I play it, but it's. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to be as level-headed as I can about it. I'm still excited to play it. I'm still really looking forward to launch day, but yeah, there's this little thing in the back of my mind that I just can't get rid of, and it needs to be, like Jasmine said, 6 years. There needs to be enough of an environment change for it to feel fresh. And I know that the mechanics have been changed. Obviously, you talk about the new abilities and stuff, but if the environment isn't changed, me personally, other people it wouldn't impact as much, but me personally, I feel like that would really kind of not ruin the experience, but it'd be a massive black mark on the experience for me. I don't know how you feel about that, Aaron. If you went into it on launch day and it was the same Hyrule as Breath of the Wild, just with the addition of some Sky Islands, would that ruin it for you, or?
It would ruin it for me, and I think I've been on record, like before that last trailer coming out, as that being like my primary concern is what have they actually spent 6 years doing. And then after we saw the gameplay showcase of the powers, it worried me that all they'd spent that time doing was improving the physics engine to the point that you can like combine different things and there's infinite opportunities in order to interact with the world. That's not what we want. But what I'm saying is that trailer, that little snippet you shown then, that showed me more potential. You know, we saw some underground stuff. We saw different suits that Link's going to wear. We saw that he gets to fight with different versions of the champions now that may or may not be descendants. They may be ancestors. Nintendo's keeping so many cards close to its chest with this game. And whereas before, you know it, Nathan, you were there, like, you know, it's been documented live on the Mirror Gaming channel just how disillusioned I was about why people were so excited about this game when it looked like more of the same. When I think the truth is that there, at some point of this game, my theory, and I haven't played it, I don't know what to expect, the world is going to undergo a massive change at some point in this game. And whether that's before or after Ganon takes Link's arm or infects it and somehow and, like, you know, sheds this blight all over it. There's more. It is set in the same Hyrule. Don't get me wrong, because we've seen too much that's similar, but there's going to be something that happens where you travel either through time or the world changes that significantly alters this version of Hyrule in a way that we haven't seen before. That's my theory.
Yeah, and a couple of the previews have said that obviously we didn't preview the game, so we can't confirm this, but a couple of the previews have said that the Sky Islands is sort of its own map in a way, and then Hyrule is a separate map as well. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see until we play it to see what we think of it. I am excited. I think it is going to be one of the games of the year from what I've seen from the previews.
Better than Redfall.
I think so.
Okay, right.
I think it might just pip it, and it'll look so much better than Redfall, which is
that's
mad
the thing
on a Switch console, which is probably not as powerful as the phone that's in my pocket right now.
Literally,
from a processing point of view, which is absolutely crazy. Which just if a game is optimized, if the devs have enough time to optimize a game for a platform, then, you know, look at what they can do. Like, there's been some amazing work happen with those kind of consoles. And,
you know, I know we constantly joke, like, what has Nintendo been doing with this game for 6 years? It wouldn't surprise me if 3 to 4 years was the Sky Islands, the underground, boss battles, all that. And the last 2 years were polish this game within an inch of its life.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even though it's been 6 years, here's the thing, is that I would rather, I'm not even a Zelda fan, but this is just how I feel about games in general. I'd rather wait 6 years and have a really amazing game come out on launch. I can play. That's an enjoyable experience I don't then have to complain about for an hour on a podcast. I'd rather wait 6 years for that than wait 4 and get something that's like, or even 3 or whatever, and get something that's unplayable. Like with Pokemon, like the most recent Pokemon games were literally like the nail in the coffin for me with the Pokemon series.
Yeah, same.
And now I just don't think I'm ever going to touch the Pokemon series again, which is really sad considering how much I've loved that. But I think that's the thing, is that most people would rather wait the 6 years and get a really amazing game, even if it is the same map. It's just about something being playable and being enjoyable. Like, it doesn't matter if stuff is similar, if they've waited so long for it. It's just about when you're playing the game, it's just about what you're playing in that moment, isn't it?
Can I just point out that, like, with the Pokemon thing, like I said, apparently I've got this reputation as being a Sony pony, a PlayStation fanboy. I like Nintendo games as well. Have you not heard that phrase before? No. But I will say, Jasmine makes a good point, what you both do, that even though Pokemon are Nintendo Switch exclusive games, they are not made directly in-house by Nintendo. They're made by a company called Game Freak, which is owned by the Pokemon Company, which Nintendo has a certain percentage stake in. So I just want to say that even though the Pokemon games have been on a downwards decline pretty much since they came to Nintendo Switch, I think Sword and Shield were absolutely rubbish at the time as well. Like, just because those games are failing now, and I think we've already seen that with games like Kirby last year and obviously Zelda, which we're about to get. The quality bar in terms of Nintendo first party proper is still high, and it always will be.
I also think that's the case, though, with Pokemon games, is that they've been a bit rushed out. Well, not even a bit. 100%. They have been very rushed out. And that's what you get. That's the consequences of that. However many came out in the past literally 2 years. That's the consequences of it. Now people are like... You think that, we're getting so many of these games out, people are going to love it, it's going to keep people interested in the franchise, but it's literally done the complete opposite. Whereas with Zelda, people have waited 6 years. No one sat there and gone like, oh, I'm not going to play Zelda because I had to wait 6 years now. Everyone is still hyped about it. Everyone's really looking forward to it. It's one of the biggest releases of this year.
Yeah. So... And look, I just want to make something clear as well, is when we talk about games being rushed out and buggy, I'm not expecting a game to be absolutely perfect. I know, like, I've been playing Elden Ring as well. There are certain glitches you can do where players have found certain areas that like if you jump to a certain bit and then jump past it and then jump to a bit that you can't reach and then jump even higher, there's like a hole in the wall and you can get to certain places. You can expect that, right? Because the best QA possible is letting millions of players play it. that is the best QA that you could possibly do. But I'm talking about like game breaking, experience ruining bugs like we experienced in Redfall, like we experienced in Cyberpunk, like we experienced in Pokemon. That is just not acceptable from a consumer point of view, because you're shipping a product knowing that it has these bugs that can be easily picked up during QA testing, and then to ship them, then you know it's a game breaking, but you know it's a bug that shouldn't exist, but you have to get it out anyway.
I'd rather have an announcement on release day for a game of them, the developer saying, "Hey guys, we're just not ready to ship it out today, and I know it's meant to be coming out today, but we can't do it because it's in such a poor state, and you guys aren't going to enjoy it, and it's not playable, and we're going to delay it for another year or whatever." I would literally rather get that than have the game arrive. Pokemon was just such a nightmare. Have a game arrive, and then there's literally NPCs that are sitting upside down in their seats. Like, what is that?
I know we've got the cart game. I know we sent the games out to physical retail stores. I know we've got all this marketing stuff, but we're delaying the game today for a year. Like,
we're going to take back your physical copies,
guys. We're gonna. We know that Shop 2 is broken street date.
Okay,
but no, I'm being a bit mean, Jasmine. I know, but like,
listen, it was metaphorical. It was metaphorical.
Yeah, I suppose, but it's interesting.
As a consumer, I'd rather hear that. As a consumer,
it's interesting. You made an interesting point though. At what stage does it get too late to cancel a game?
A game goes gold
or delay it
on average, and going gold is the sort of like the final version, the stuff that's printed on discs, even though like discs don't really account for the majority of game sales anymore. It generally goes gold about a month and a half before release. So up until that, basically, if a game hasn't been delayed a month and a half before it's scheduled to come out, it ain't getting delayed. It won't be delayed. And I just want to say one final point on the Pokemon thing, is that Jasmine brought up earlier, like, me and her, now that the quality of Pokemon games have been, dropping and stuff, the reason that they've sometimes in some cases put out 2 Pokemon games in a year is because they continue to sell, because Pokemon is the biggest entertainment medium, money-making entertainment medium in the world. And I think that's a rare case of that. Sadly, it doesn't matter how poor quality the Pokemon games are. Game Freak knows it, the Pokemon company knows it. People will continue to buy it. Vote with your wallet is all I'll say, and hopefully the Pokemon games will do that, same as the quality. But
got some comments. Edge of Light is going now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Connor says it's lose-lose for devs. It's either crunch or bugged release in the publisher's art. Yeah, exactly. We know that it's not the actual developers, the individual developers themselves. That's not the issue. It's the people above them and getting them to work in incredibly difficult conditions to get a game out at a decent state, instead of giving them time and resources to fix the issues that are going on. So yeah, I just feel sorry for the people who've imagine the people that have worked on Redfall for years, the developers that worked on Redfall for years, and it comes out and it's been just, the reviews have been horrible, and they talk about how buggy it is and stuff, and they must know. They must know, and there's nothing they can do. Like, I'm sure they want to come out and be like, "We never wanted to release it, but we had to," sort of thing. So it's just, it's just really interesting.
Again, it comes down to, these publishers, they have financial targets to hit within the year, right? And if a game gets delayed, then their shareholders get uppity because the company didn't make as much money as it said it would. Games are a business at the end of the day. It's an artistic endeavor, but ultimately they need to make money. Sorry.
Talking of making money.
Greasy money.
Terrible segue. 0 out of 5.
Okay, thank you. It's not. I've not even finished the segue yet. Talking of making money, Asus will be making some money very soon.
Asus.
Asus.
Okay.
Asus. I've watched a few like American Canadian YouTubers, and it's Asus. But if it's Asus, then
over my dead body, I might say Asus. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Asus. The ROG Ally is coming soon. The launch event is on May the 11th, I believe.
Yes, May the 11th, 3 p.m.
That's
PST.
not the confirmed launch of it. That is just the launch event. So we don't yet know if it's coming out yet. That is so... Get your head around that. The launch event is on May the 11th, but that's not... Maybe it's not when it releases, but maybe it is. We don't know yet. That's when they're launching the release date. So we'll have to find out.
I can't with
know
these
we've
tech
talked
companies.
Yeah, I know. We talked about the ROG Ally. We talked about how good it looks and the specs and stuff. And Jasmine's been able to... We've done a video for us on the channel about the specs and how it's looking. And we got an exclusive preview with Asus and everything. But the news that we're going to talk about is the fact that the price has leaked. Now, we talked a lot on the podcast about the price of this being so important when it comes to competing it against the Steam Deck, because the Steam Deck is so competitive from a price point of view. The Asus ROG Ally is setting up to be a strong Steam Deck competitor. Reputable tech tipster at Snoopy Tech tweeted out the price, reported price for the ROG Ally premium model that houses the AMD Z1 Extreme chip. According to them, this is the premium model, the one with the upgraded processor chip. It'll come in at $699, which is around $560 in pounds. But bear in mind that hardware and regional pricing is rarely a straight conversion. So you're looking at potentially 700, maybe 600. And then obviously the model below that, you expect that to be maybe £100 cheaper, which is potentially $599 or $499, depending on the conversion rate and what they decide to do. That is extremely aggressive pricing. I was expecting at least north of 1,000. Obviously, this is unconfirmed.
Well, I
and
think
it's
the
been
thing
leaked,
is that Asus did say when they first announced it that it was like they were like promising that it'd be less than 1,000. That's the promise they made. They said, we promise this is going to be less than 1,000, but that made everyone think that it was going to be sort of 999. Do you know what I mean? Like the classic less than 1,000, 999. So to get these
£999.99.
Yeah, exactly. So to see these leaks come in at around 700 for the premium model, $700 is like insane, because that's practically the same price as the higher end model of the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Which is like, based on the specs that we've got so far of the ROG Ally, that is insane. If you think, oh yeah, I'm going to spend an extra $50 and get double the performance, I say in quotation marks, we have no idea what it's going to perform like.
Yeah.
But based on the specs, I'm going to get double the performance, spending $50 extra. Why would I not?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's right now, if this pricing does ring true, that is literally no competition here. The Steam Deck is out of the picture for me, anyway.
The one thing I would say to that is that I have seen some previews. Some people do hands-on previews, and they've talked about the ROG Ally versus the Steam Deck, and their overall perspective on it, which I find really interesting, is they talk about the Steam Deck as a console and the Asus ROG Ally as a Windows PC handheld machine, because the games that are on the Steam Deck, there's a clear verification step. You can see when games are verified. You know they're going to run correctly. There's things that aren't particularly verified, but they still work quite well because there's been some checks. Basically, there's someone at Valve who's going through the games and then verifying them and saying, yeah, this is playable, fine, put the tick on it. Yeah, this is verifiable. For the Ally, because it runs Windows 11, Asus have got a lot of work to do in trying to optimize games, because we know from what we talked about before, PC games especially recently, haven't been optimized. Optimizing for the ROG Ally is another separate thing that developers will have to do. So I'm not feeling as confident as you about the experience that we're going to get on it. We'll have to see, obviously, when we play some games. But is that a worry for you, the sort of optimization of these games? Because that's the sort of extra layer that Asus don't have that control over Microsoft to say, oh, can you verify these games and make sure they work? Microsoft are going to be like, what are you on about? Like, it's your console.
Yeah, I think the thing is that a big reason why a lot of people get handheld devices like the Steam Deck, I feel like they're not crazy and want to play Elden Ring on it for 40 minutes. Who
would do that? Who would do that?
I think
what
most
crazy...
people pick up handheld devices so they can play like indie games or more relaxing games where it's like you don't need to be arched over a PC in order to play. Obviously, the indie game market on PC, on Steam specifically, is like so vast. You've got all these titles which you can't access from other consoles. So I think that is a like big reason why a lot of people get gaming laptops or gaming PCs and stuff like that. So to be able to get a cheaper alternative like the Steam Deck is a big thing for some people. But then the issue with that is when it comes to optimization is that it creates more work for these indie development studios if, I don't know, Steam or Asus, whichever, puts out this sort of like, here's how you can optimize your game for our platform. Indie developers aren't going to have the time and the resources to be able to put all of that effort into optimize for a platform which is a very, very small percentage of their player base. From my perspective anyway. So I think that no matter what Asus do to get the optimization running along smoothly, there's always going to be a lot of games which just aren't going to be optimized for the platform.
Yeah. I suppose my point is that Valve have got their own Steam, right? It's their platform, and all the games that you run on the Steam Deck are through Steam. I know you can do emulators and stuff as well with it because it runs Linux, but most of the main games are ran through their own platform, and that allows them to verify the games themselves and to have these direct conversations with the developers and be like, okay, your game is on Steam. Can you verify for the Steam Deck and get it all sorted for this? With the Asus ROG Ally, who's having these, like, who's actually responsible for optimizing the games? Like, that's what's kind of confusing me about this. But Aaron, if you want to pick up on that.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I feel like this, because I'm a Steam Deck user and I'm interested a lot in the Ally purely because it can run like other storefronts like the Epic Game Store and obviously Xbox Game Pass, which I'm a massive fan of, obviously. But like, I feel like the and I kind of touched upon this last week, is that the Steam Deck is so prevalent that developers want to be on there. So I feel like what Ally needs to do, or ROG, whatever, or Asus, or whatever they're called, need to do is make it so that the game, they definitely want to come to be on the platform specifically, to the extent that it's worth Asus maybe sort of Asus. Asus. It's worth them having a similar verification system. Do you know what I mean? And I think they're going to have like an uphill struggle.
But whose responsibility is that though? Because it's not Windows, because Asus are just using their platform as a basis for their handheld. It's not the developers, because they just make games for platforms that they get told to make games. But
this
for
is
a
what
PC.
I think, is that I feel like the responsibility is going to fall back on developers. I feel like Asus are probably going to have some type of like, okay, here's how we're going to help, but I don't think ultimately they're going to take responsibility for optimization of games.
That's what I'm saying. So what they need, what Asus needs to do, is make sure that Ally becomes just as much successful as the Steam Deck, if not more, so that developers make the effort to get their games running to a certain standard on there. But I will say, like, in my experience with the Steam Deck, I want to say 80% of the games, even if they're unverified, they could probably play smoother. They might require a little bit of tweaking, but it's possible. And if Ally can get it working so that it's the equivalent of when I plug in my Xbox Series Elite 2 controller into my PC, okay, a game might not have been specifically designed with playing with a controller in mind. A lot of games are these days. It needs to be like a simple fix like that. They need to make the process of porting a game on that. Well, they don't even have to port it, because they're porting it technically to the service. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I suppose it depends on the take up, doesn't it? If 5 million people buy the console, developers are going to be like, right, okay, we need to get it sorted. If 100,000 people buy it, they're going to.
I think that's why the launch and the launch event and all of these other things are like so important right now.
What are they launching?
They're trying to build up so much
launching
hype.
The release date, Aaron, not the.
Because I think like this was the thing, right? When they originally announced it in the trailer, it was on April Fool's Day, and everyone was like, "Right, this is a joke," and they had to like put out a statement to be like, "By the way, guys, this isn't a joke," because obviously April 1st is the perfect day to announce your brand new console, right?
It was Ally. That was the name, wasn't it? Ally.
Yeah, it's like a perfect time to announce your brand new console, right? But I think this is the thing, is that even that brought sort of like attention to it. Like people were looking at it, people were like, haha, look at this amazing April Fool's joke. People all over the YouTube comments of that trailer were like, oh, this is so totally feasible to be a real thing from Asus, because they've been looking at doing stuff like this for ages now. And then it was. So obviously, big up Asus, good marketing there. But that's what they need. They need to have as much sort of like fan support behind it.
Yeah, I'm just worried that I suppose I'm normally quite optimistic about things like this, but I'm just worried that because of it is more expensive than the Steam Deck. There's no getting away from that, even though it's twice as powerful. If a lot of people in my eyes, if you think about 10,000, 100,000 people, that's a lot of people spending a lot of money on this. But it's not a lot to developers potentially.
Yeah.
And if they say, nah, you know what, there's not enough take up, that could be a very expensive mantelpiece. Mantelpiece.
Because you're not running through any kind of Asus client. There's no guarantee that any games at all will be optimized for it. You could literally be buying something that is going to sit on your desk. That's it.
Be a media player potentially. You can watch Netflix on it.
But there's no guarantee that you can even do that. It does say it will run Windows 11, but who knows if it will even run an internet browser.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Valve has said that SteamOS, they're going to make SteamOS like open source so that people could use it. I'm just interested why Asus have done it this way rather than being like, okay, Valve, we'll nick your platform. It's worked so well. Let's do it. Let's do your platform, but better. That would have been, to me.
But that's the big selling point of it, is that it's on Windows 11, which is why I am convinced that it will allow for productivity uses as well.
Yeah.
And browsing the internet, using
Microsoft
Photoshop
Excel
or video editing.
on that.
But I am convinced that you'll get productivity uses out of it, because that's obviously the big difference between running SteamOS, because even on Linux, SteamOS, you can sort of install a lot of other platforms if you want to. You're not supposed to, but you can. But the thing is about Windows 11 is that you just can. You don't have to figure out how to do it or anything like that. You can just do it, and it's easy, and you can sort of use all these other sort of productivity uses as well. So I think that it will be able to do stuff like browse the internet and edit a YouTube video on there if you want to.
Yeah,
maybe that will be the next step. I'll be editing my TikToks on a little handheld on the train.
Maybe we'll have to wait and see. What a conversation this has been, guys. Aaron, sorry, do you want to finish?
I was just going to say, so the Ally, it can't run an internet browser. Does that mean I'm not going to be able to watch the new trailer for Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2 that has just dropped as we were recording on the Ally? Yeah. Does that mean I can't? You
can't run an internet browser, Jazz. It doesn't
run
Microsoft Edge.
I said it's not being confirmed. Don't put words in my mouth. It's
Nathan, these guys don't know these guys don't know what they're launching at their own launch event. They don't know what they're called. They don't know what they're called. Jasmine's saying that that is a brilliant bit of marketing, doing it on April Fool's Day, because everyone's wondering if it's real. I'm like, is it? I think they don't know what they're doing, but all right.
No,
I guess it kind of works in their favor.
I think it got a lot of traction running.
I don't disagree with you, but whether or not they planned for it to be that way is another story. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, surely this has got to have been in development for years before. Surely.
Yeah, in the pre, they did say to me that this device has been in development for 9 years.
Yeah. I just think that whatever marketing room they just set on April 1st, that lines up. That's cool. Nobody brought up the fact that it was April Fool's Day. Like, they were like,
what? Really?
They said it on Twitter. Really? They said it on Twitter. They literally in the video referenced. No, but in their trailer, they referenced their old April Fool's jokes in it. They didn't sit there and go, whoa, we forgot it's April Fool's Day. Oh, whoa. Like, they knew. And it was a coincidence that it's called Ally. It's just completely coincidence that they realised.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know.
No, Aaron's convinced. Aaron's actually convinced it was all a coincidence.
You don't think that they chose that name specifically so that it tied in with April Fools?
That's like what you're saying? Oh, let's call it the deck because May 5th is Deck Tuesday, and then do you know what I mean? I don't know. What? I just making up a random day, but yeah.
I feel like you're just saying stuff now.
Why call your device something named after the day you announced it on, and then that's the name that's stuck with it indefinitely? Do you know what I mean?
We'll get an interview with Asus and we'll ask.
Get him on the phone. I want to know. Yeah.
And why don't we end there, guys? That's the segue to end our show. Thank you so much, guys, for everyone who's watched on YouTube and Facebook. We really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed today. I don't want to end it, but we've got stuff to do.
I have enjoyed talking about Redfall for an hour.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, sorry, Will.
Yeah, it was worth it.
It was definitely worth it, yeah. Thank you to everyone who's watched. If you want to like and comment on the video, we really appreciate it. And for everyone who sent chat messages, genuinely, we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, please drop us a like and subscribe as well. We've got some great videos coming up on the channel over the next week or so. So look forward to those. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Jasmine. Thanks, Aaron. For joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 4 p.m. BST on the Mirror Game walkthrough. But until then, see you later. Bye bye.